Please hold the line. We will answer your call as soon as possible.
In this episode of Please Hold, I'm talking to Sam Schenk. Sam is the co-founder and CEO of Hotel Tonight. If you've ever been in a pinch in a city and you need a hotel room at the last minute, you may have used his app. And if you haven't, you're going to use it after this interview. So it's great to have you here.
No, great to be here. It's actually that, so the emergency use case is like what people think of, like sort of that's the obvious use case, but the majority of our use now is business travel, spontaneous weekend getaways, staycations, so we've really positioned it to be beyond the, like, when my flight's canceled type of use case.
Okay, how far in advance can you book?
You can book 7 days in advance, but the trick with Hotel Tonight and hotels in general is that the longer you wait, the better the deals get. It's the exact opposite of flights. So even though we do 7 days in advance, sometimes you want to lock it in ahead of time, but the more you wait, the better the deals get, the cheaper the rates are.
I feel like and I have a few questions before we get to Hotel Tonight, but I just want to ask you this. I feel like I don't know, maybe I'll just call it too much of a control freak to just go to a city and then open the app almost once I'm on the ground or the day before and hope there's a room available. But you're saying that's the best way to go, you're going to get the best deal.
Yeah, and I mean, if you feel uncomfortable doing that, just open it a week ahead of time and start looking at what's there. And if you see good stuff, it's just going to get better.
Okay, great. Well, before we get to Hotel Tonight, I want to talk about Wes Craven and Scream. You were an assistant to him. And I'm curious what made you get into the entertainment industry, and then what made you get out of it after 9 months and spend the rest of your time and your career in tech and travel?
Yeah, so let's see. When I was growing up, I loved movies, and my idols were guys like James Cameron and Spielberg, and especially guys that like combined technology and storytelling, and really wanted just to be a filmmaker. And so what I wanted to do when I grew up, I wanted to be a movie director and do big action movies and sort of the big Hollywood movies. And so I was in Virginia and sort of had to scramble to work my way into getting a job in Hollywood, and met Wes Craven and at a film festival in Virginia, and then he offered me a job on this movie that was called Scary Movie at the time and then turned into Scream. And so moved out to LA and worked for him. And so, it was that was sort of the motivation behind it. What I realized is that it's not a meritocracy at all in Hollywood. It's about luck. It's about the stars aligning. And I looked at some of the guys that worked for Wes that were doing pretty much similar jobs to what I was doing. My job was as an assistant. The cool parts of it were reading scripts and thinking about what Wes's next project was. That's called development. The worst parts were getting laundry and shipping boxes. But the guys that were like 35 working for him were still doing script development. They were doing the same thing I was doing. And I was like, this could be me. I could blink my eyes and I could be those guys, and that would be a really unfulfilling life for me, and I wouldn't be achieving my goal. And so that was one. Two, the people I didn't think were very serious in Hollywood, my sort of coworkers and people that were my contemporaries, they were there for the scene, and they just weren't there really to make movies. They weren't very entrepreneurial. So that was two. And then I was just fascinated by technology as well. And there wasn't a lot of technology in Hollywood, and I looked up north and I saw in '96 what was going on in the internet. And
so that Excited Home or Lycos?
It was at CNET first.
CNET, okay.
And the technology news website. It's part of CBS Interactive now. And said, I want to be part of that. So moved up there.
Any regrets? Do you wish you were a movie director today?
Not at all. I am very happy that I moved up to Northern California, and very happy that I'm not in Hollywood. Now I still harbor a love for movies, and there's a part of me that maybe after Hotel Tonight I'd love to go back into storytelling of some sort, but it would be more like doing Hollywood from a Northern California perspective and a technology perspective than doing technology from a Hollywood perspective.
So Pixar, not Universal?
Maybe, I don't know.
Like
maybe like a new platform, or what does storytelling on mobile that's collaborative look like? That's sort of interesting for me versus how do you make really big movies.
So for over 10 years, you've started or played executive roles in travel websites, culminating with Hotel Tonight in 2010. I'm curious, what is so fascinating to you about the travel industry? Why spend so much time on one industry? What do you think the opportunity is? How do you see it evolving?
I think that, so first, why did I go there in the first place? And it was about combining two of my interests when I was starting a business. And one of the interests was consumer websites, and this was right when Friendster was coming out, and I was like, wow, this is going to be big. I was right, it's just the wrong company.
Yeah.
And so got really enamored with consumer internet models again, and social media, and as it turned out, was interesting. And then a personal passion of mine that I got sort of bit by the travel bug late in life. And so I was really interested personally in travel. It turns out to be an enormous business, an enormous industry, the largest category of e-commerce in the world. And then it also doesn't have a lot of innovation in it. So I was like, all right, this looks like a great area for me to start something in, and I wanted to do this social network for travel, which ended up being a really bad idea, but got me into it.
It's been tried so many times.
Yeah, no, I know. And I still see it being tried, and I'm like, no, I can tell you firsthand that this is a bad idea. So that's why I sort of got into it in the first place, and then sort of why I've been continuing to be in it. I think that once you know something, you can recognize opportunities earlier than others. So that led, the first two companies were modest successes, if you even want to call them that, but led to the recognition of the Hotel Tonight opportunity before other people saw it, as well as then the ability, because of contacts in the press, contacts with suppliers, and credibility with investors, to be able to hit the ground running when I saw that opportunity and really embrace it.
Wow, very cool. How do you think the industry has evolved? I mean, other than the obvious, like the internet, but how do you think it's fundamentally changed? Are more people in the world, do they have access to travel inexpensively, and so people are just traveling more? Or like, what are the trends that you've seen?
I think that, it's more on the airline side than on the hotel side, where there's innovation in the cost of travel. So with the rise of low-cost carriers, especially in Europe, but even here over the past few years, like the cost of, you can fly like round trip to New York for like under $300, which is amazing.
The prices kind of stayed constant for like 20 years,
yeah,
which
exactly.
is pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing,
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. You can go take this trip that you took our ancestors like a year to do in like 5 hours, right?
Yes.
And that opens up a lot of things. And so people are traveling more. I just read a stat there that only 5% of the world's population has been on an airplane. Still. So there's a lot more people that haven't
used to be
traveled.
the U.S. maybe 80 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot more people that haven't traveled that will. But I think that the other sort of mega trend is the rise of experiential travel and the rise of sort of Airbnbs and more authentic travel experiences. And I think that that's an important trend, and I think people are not only looking to go somewhere, they're interested in the experience while they're there. Because of the rise of sort of peer-to-peer stuff, you can have these authentic experiences that you used to not be able to. And the way we play into that, and the way I look at it, is that you've got the spectrum of big chain hotels on one end and the really authentic neighborhood Airbnb on the other end. And in the middle are boutique hotels and places like the Gansevoort and the Ace Hotel. I stayed at the Ace Hotel LA last night, and these are really authentic and unique and one of a kind, but they have the consistency of a hotel. Yep. And the services of a hotel, a gym, a pool, etc. And that combination we found is a really great sweet spot between those two things that plays into this trend of people looking for something that is different when they travel. They want to be somebody else. They want to experience something else new.
Is Airbnb your biggest competitor?
Oh, not at all. Our biggest competitors are Expedia and Priceline. I view Airbnb as a complementary service to what we do.
Can I book an Airbnb in Hotel Tonight?
No, but we talk to a lot of people that use Airbnb and Hotel Tonight exclusively as their travel planning tools.
So just different preferences depending on what kind of trip you're on.
Longer lead for Airbnb, longer length of stay. For us, it's about short duration, where you need to be in a city center near business, sort of a business core area,
Yep.
and where you need a lot of convenience. You need to be in and out. You need to have a front desk, effectively.
Yep. So it was a really bold move in 2010 when you guys launched. I mean, today being mobile only, okay, but in 2010, that was kind of risky. Why did you go that route? And if you had to do it again, would you still be mobile only?
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the key elements of our success, is that we focused on the platform that was going to grow much faster than regular hotel booking and online travel booking. So I think that I've talked about this, I think I took it from Satya at Homebrew, but is that it's important to be better than your competition, but it's also important to be different. And because our website just said download our app, like we were one of the first people that did that. And think Instagram maybe was
that's the other one I
of the
could
other
think
ones,
of.
and maybe Uber was launching around the same time, and it was really like made people say, hey, this is something different. Like I can only get this by downloading this app. Hotels loved it too because they didn't have an app and they weren't able to reach those customers through an app that were customers that were choosing to book last minute through a mobile app.
Yep.
So they were able to say, this is incremental, this is different. And then they also were able to give us better pricing because it was not on the internet, it was on apps.
So you weren't nervous at the time? You thought you were confident in the approach?
I was so confident in that business, at least when we launched.
Yeah.
And then nobody booked. So we had a goal in January of 2011 to do 100 bookings. And we ended up doing 55, and half of those were like ourselves. So we were like, everything else though on the metrics in terms of buzz and downloads and hotel satisfaction and hotel signups was off the charts. But we weren't getting anybody to use the product. And I'm like, do we have like a business here or do we have a work of art? And work of art won't pay the bills. And so it took another few months for people to have found awareness of what we did and then be in a situation where they needed us or wanted to use us. And then it took off. But
at the time, you could only book the same day or the day before?
Yeah, same day and only one night when we launched.
So, all right, so very specific use case.
Very specific use case, but fantastic pricing at great hotels.
Yep.
But yeah, it just took a little while for it to catch on, and once it did, it was fine. But during those months, I was like, I was going to give this another month, and then we're going to have to like walk away.
I think we all have those moments.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned work of art. Your father was an architect, and you've said that influenced some of your first design ideas for the app. I'm curious. Well, it's maybe a low-hanging fruit question, but how important is design to the success of an app? And is there a connection between building a beautiful building and building a beautiful app? Like, what did you take away from that experience with your father?
Yeah, I think it's more of an aesthetic and an appreciation for an aesthetic. My dad's a contemporary architect, and so I grew up with a lot of clean lines and modern and simplicity, sort of Scandinavian design, which ends up translating very well to mobile apps, which because they have a very small screen size, you have to be very efficient, and less is more. It turns out that less is more is really hard to design for, to pack what you need to know into a small, into the fewer words and fewer buttons and fewer less
Mark
information.
Twain's quote, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one.
Yeah, exactly.
Idea?
Exactly, same thing.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of discipline and continued vigilance to keep things simple. But I got that from my dad. And then in terms of the importance of design, I think it can be a very big differentiator is one thing, but it's not going to, just because you have a great design doesn't mean you're going to have a great business. It can't be the only differentiator. You got to have other things. Where I think it can be vital is in sort of the user experience. And we looked at design as well in terms of the aesthetic, but also in terms of like tap counts and how many taps did it take to book a hotel. For us, it was 3 taps to book a hotel. And for the other guys, we did this great chart in our fundraising deck that showed the bars of what it took on Priceline, what it took on Hotels.com, and it was like 80 taps to book a hotel.
Wow.
And so we had something that was an order of magnitude, 2 orders of magnitude in some cases, better than the competition. And so that was design though, but not in an aesthetic sense.
Has the competition learned? Is it a few taps now in Hotels.com?
Yeah, it's gotten better, but I think that it's something that is very, very hard to translate when you've got a company that is web design and web legacy.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the apps out there from web legacy companies in travel and not in travel, they end up being very focused on replicating the website, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to great design. You compare that to Snapchat, and Snapchat was built by guys that grew up on mobile. That was their sort of first computer was an iPhone.
Yep.
And you look at the interactions there, you look at the swiping, the gestures, the navigation, and it is so unlike anything else on the web and anything you've experienced before. And that's why I think it resonates well and why with that audience, and also is just successful.
I was talking to the CEO of Blade earlier today, and he was telling me that they originally were just on mobile, and then when they built their website, it really made a key difference because then a lot of people had their assistants start booking rides for them, where they didn't want to really give out their phone to their assistants all the time. Do you think that applies to your industry? Do you have any plans to build a website?
We have a mobile website, but for us, it's about really about focus, and it's about the inventory that we get. Being focused on mobile allows us to get better inventory from our hotel partners. And the world is moving to mobile. It's only a few years from us having our only computer being a mobile device. So
I guess an assistant could log in, like my assistant could log into my account and book for me.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
And you can also book for somebody else. So you can, on your account, you can book for a different person's name.
So non-issue.
Non-issue.
So I get why consumers love Hotel Tonight. They're obviously getting a deal. What's in it for the hotels? Is it simply that you are making a room that would otherwise be vacant not vacant? Is the idea, is it almost like a Groupon thing where you're introducing someone new to that hotel that may become a permanent customer? Like, what is the main benefit for a hotel?
I think it's both of those. But the initial pitch was, we are going to help you get revenue off of something that would be empty. So would you like to earn revenue off of empty rooms? And in the old days, the hotel revenue manager, and there's somebody at a hotel property that manages the pricing on third-party apps and third-party sites. They didn't have a way to sell rooms on the same day. They didn't have a tool. And so they would just sort of leave in the morning sort of the rates for today at a certain point, and then keep their fingers crossed that somebody would book or walk in. And most of it was walk-in and phone calls. So we came in and said, all right, give us a deal, but on the rooms that you're not going to sell. And it was a very novel message, because this was in the age of Groupon, when there were a lot of Groupon clones, and hotels would get calls all day long saying, hey, give us a deal on all your rooms and 30% off, and then we'll charge you 30% margin. And the hotel's like, why? And so we came in with a really interesting message that was deal-oriented, but mobile only, and only on the stuff that they knew they weren't going to sell. And so now...
Was that a pretty easy pitch? Was it?
Nothing's easy. So we had to differentiate on the supply side in a lot of ways. We made the contract only about 8 sentences. We were very simple.
Wow.
The extranet just asked for 2 things. Extranet is where they manage the inventory. How many rooms do you want to sell, and what do you want to price them for? And the simplicity of it and the focus of it really helped us stand out. The other thing we did is we did sort of what OpenTable did, which is went after the tastemaker hotels in a city, and we launched in San Francisco, LA, and New York. And then once we had those locked in and committed, we were able to get everybody else to sort of fall in place. So in New York was the Ace Hotel. Once the Ace Hotel said yes, everybody else said, well, we need to be there too.
Yep.
Roosevelt in LA, the Vitale in San Francisco. So that was one. But all right, so all of that said, we had about 2 months to start generating revenue. Because we can...
Why so little?
Because people would not give us rooms anymore. They didn't want to deal with the hassle of managing the channel. And so we had to show some revenue pretty quickly. Otherwise, they would have said, this isn't worth it for us.
Right.
So I think that's important in a marketplace business. Generally, it's easier to get the supply than the demand, but you have to show some level of rising demand to your suppliers. Otherwise,
it's not worth it to manage.
They're going to disengage. They're not going to give you good inventory. And
so what did you do? You had 2 months to get a bunch of people to get hotel rooms?
Well, we did a lot of things. So basically threw the kitchen sink at it. So
okay.
What did we do?
What's the craziest thing that you did?
A lot of PR. We did coupons and discounting. Started at $10 and I took it to $25 because it wasn't moving the needle. And I was like, all right, we're going to keep turning it up until we ran out of money. Because I'd rather do that than run out of money because we wasted too much time.
Sure.
We developed a really good relationship with Apple and got featured by Apple, and they saw what we were doing as unique. And the PR started kicking in. That was good. I pitched Sarah Lacey and Paul Carr when they were at TechCrunch on doing this crazy thing where we'd go around and book hotel rooms and get a bunch of drinks and review the hotel rooms and walk in them and stuff. And I didn't realize until after I had invited them that Sarah was pregnant and Paul was a recovering alcoholic. So so I had a few drinks. The camera crew had a few drinks, but it turned out really well though. And but it was a bold pitch to say to some of the best writers in tech to take a day off and go around and fund a video shoot too. We didn't pay for it, so
wow, amazing.
We paid for the hotel room. It was a really good day of hotel bookings. We did 3.
I'm curious how the model works in a crunch situation. So South by Southwest comes to mind, or any time a city is inundated. Maybe there's a Democratic or Republican National Convention in a city. In those cases, do hotels still offer on Hotel Tonight?
Yeah, so in cases where the city's going to sell out, what we do is, and we know that ahead of time, we'll reserve inventory with our hotel partners, and so that we can release those on the same day. Now, we'll probably sell out of that, but we'll have inventory throughout the day.
And those are still discounted?
Still discounted, yeah.
Okay. So can I use Hotel Tonight at South by Southwest and have confidence that a day before I can get a room?
Yeah, there's plenty of rooms at South by.
Wow.
Without us even having to reserve it, because there's a lot of cancellations at these events, especially South by. People will commit and then they don't go, or something comes up, and so people were canceling. We had great stuff downtown for like $200. So.
I mean, it's also the home of $1,000 a night Sheraton rooms, so
yeah.
South by can be brutal.
Yeah, I don't know any more about that, but we'll see.
So when a plane takes off, obviously it's the same idea as a hotel room that goes unsold. It's a sunk cost and it's a zero for the airline. Do you think there'll ever be a seat tonight or a rental car tonight, or like what are the other areas of travel that you see are ripe for disruption with the same model?
Yeah, I think that to do what we do, there's got to be fragmentation in the market, so a lot of suppliers, and that's why there isn't going to be this for airlines or rental cars. I don't believe in the future of rental cars at all anymore, given the on-demand transportation system that's being
Uber
developed.
tonight is just Uber.
Yeah, exactly. They have a very fragmented market,
Yes.
at least for now. So I don't see those opportunities. I think there could be opportunities in restaurants, but that's sort of open table or tickets and events. That's kind of StubHub, or in Vivid Seats. So I don't see too many opportunities.
Why would an
we're
airline? I actually, before I started service, I had this idea. I called it jump seat, where I was going to go to the airlines and I was going to be the one to convince them that yes, you can raise your prices up to the last minute, but at the very last minute, let's say within 12 hours of a flight, drop them 80% because you're still going to make money on that 20%, and you're going to get people to actually take those empty seats. And I talked to a few friends in the travel business, and they all told me I was crazy and I was going to completely waste my time. And usually that fires me up, but I actually listened to them that time. Do you see an opportunity with airlines? Like, why would an airline take off with an empty seat?
Because they can make more money by charging 8x for the one seat that they sell than the 8 seats that go empty. So I think that for them, it's basically a monopoly business when you have a route from one place to another and they're the only ones that fly it. And if you need to go there because of an emergency or because of business, and you need to book at the last minute, which a lot of business travelers are booking within 12 hours, then they can charge basically whatever they want, up to where you would just not go for whatever reason. So
What about the markets that have fragmentation, like LA, San Francisco? There's probably a dozen airlines that fly that, and there's probably a flight every 20 minutes combined.
Yeah.
Is that an opportunity?
Not really. I mean, again, you're dealing with, so the other problem is, and I dealt with this at Sidestep, which is bought my first company and was a flight comparison shopping tool, in addition to having hotel comparison shopping. But on the flight side, so what happens if like United gets successful with Sidestep, or Sidestep is successful for United and starts delivering them a lot of business? United says, thank you so much, but we're not going to pay you anymore. And actually, you have to pay us for the right to show United on Sidestep. And what does Sidestep do? Sidestep can't not have United. It doesn't work. So who is in charge of who? Now with a fragmented market, if XYZ Hotel says, hey, we're not sure that we want to participate anymore at this rate, or you're going to have to pay us to list us, we would say, thank you very much. I disagree with your opinion here, so we'll just go our separate ways. And we can put on an equivalent hotel.
Right.
And that's what we've done in the past.
Makes sense. So I guess my jump seat concept or seat tonight is never gonna happen.
It may, but it's going to be with microjets and small airlines. I flew Surf Air on the way to LA, which is where I came from. And in LA, it was it flies into Hawthorne Airport, which is a small airport. It's kind of a private jet experience, and it's a really pleasant experience flying them. And I think stuff like that could take off in a bigger way.
Yep, makes
no
sense.
pun intended.
So we get a lot of cases at service for third-party booking sites, and then we end up going to the hotel directly to resolve usually. If a Hotel Tonight user has a customer service issue, is it your problem? Is it the hotel's problem? Do you guys try to step in and mediate ever? How does it work?
It really depends on the situation. We definitely try and have the guest work with the hotel to resolve the situation or to talk about it or raise the issue. We do have a really nice concierge system though called HT Pros, that it's a mobile chat service right within the app for bookings in most of our major cities over $200. And for those services, those situations, will definitely help and mediate between the hotel and the guest if that's the way the guest wants us to.
And do you have more leverage because the hotel knows they need to keep you happy as a whole versus just a single guest?
Potentially. I think that we do have standards on Hotel Tonight, and if a hotel drops below a certain level of user ratings, kind of like Uber or Lyft, we'll just take them off the network.
Yep.
So it's not so much, I think it's on a whole, they know that it's a privilege, not a right, to be on Hotel Tonight.
So machine learning and bots are really buzzy things right now in the tech space. And it's something that we're trying to perfect in the vein of customer service. What do you think of chatbots? Is it all hype? Is there real potential there? And do you ever see a bot answering one of your customers versus one of those pros?
Well, potentially. We haven't looked at it enough to know where a bot would be helpful, but we can talk later and share notes. Right now, the types of requests are so across the board that and so bespoke that it would be really hard to be able to set up a bot when somebody's like, I need dental floss at 2 o'clock, leave it over there on the side of the room. I don't know.
Do you get requests like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So people treat you as if they're calling the reception of the hotel?
Yep. It's anything and everything. It's restaurant recommendations. It's I forgot something or left something in my room, or can I get a late checkout? Yep.
Okay.
Anything you talk to the hotel about. It's really nice just to message somebody and not have to call the front desk. It's like really, really very nice.
Couldn't agree more. That's why we released the app that we did.
yeah, exactly. Smart lines think alike. And then but I think that it really works well in service. I don't think that like the idea of booking a hotel through a chat interface, you're sort of backpedaling in terms of UI sophistication. So you're taking something
there's
that
hardly
you can
any
do.
UI. It's
there's
just
no UI, and
text.
It's like a command line interface all over again, and you're making a service like become way more cumbersome by having it there. So I'm not sold on that, but for really customized requests, which is generally service, or say I'm looking for a piece of jewelry or need fashion advice or something like that, where you would need to talk to someone, I think it could work.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks so much for being on today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, man.
Did you like what you just saw? You want to see more? Go ahead and subscribe. We have new episodes every Tuesday. And if there's someone you want to see on the show, just add them as a comment down below. We'll take a look and we'll have them on if we can. Thanks again.